Hello and welcome. Let's look at one of the most useful functions when writing After Effects expressions, and one of the most confused function as well. So let's clarify it today. So without talking much, let's actually write some expressions. So this scene file has two objects. One I call the master, and the other one is I call dog. It should be slave, but slave is not a good word, so let's use dog, right? So let's imagine for a moment that the master wants to walk the dog. So what do we have to do? So for convenience, let's say the master only walks in x-axis. So you can press P with the position attributes. Now I have separated the dimensions, by the way, for convenience. So let's alt click on this little stopwatch here to write an expression. Let's use the expression pick whip to link the x attribute to the master's x position. All right, now what it does is that whatever the x position of the master, the dog's going to inherit because it's linked like this. Now if I move the master, the dog is going to move along with him exactly like that. So let's change it a little bit with the linear expression. So I'll write it down first. I'm going to write var input equals to. Now this is a variable. Variable is it's just a name. If I tell you exactly what it is that it's a memory location that can hold the value, whatever the value, this value right here. At the moment it's 836. This number, this input, let's think of it as a person. This person now knows this value is 836. Now we can refer to that person with this name. All right. Now I'm going to write a linear function. This function is going to return a value. What the function is going to return, I'll talk about that. The linear function accepts 5 arguments. Number 1 is the input. Whatever the value that we want to map, and the lowest end of the master, right? The master, the lowest end at this point is 600, around here, and 1300. How do I know that? Because how do I know that is that let's disable the. How do I know that is I know, right? It's 600 right here, around 600 right here, around 1300 here, right? These are the values. So I want the master to walk from here to here, and the dog to behave differently. So that's what I'm doing here. So I want the dog to walk up to like here when the master is coming here. So when the master's at 600, that's here. I want the dog not to be at exactly 600. I want it to reach 200. When the master's at 1300, like here, I want the dog to reach like 1700. So the dog doesn't walk exactly like the master. It walks in a different way, like this. All right. We can do another way as well. So this, let's say the lowest point is that 600 and 1300, but I want the dog to go to 600. No, 600, not 600, 500. Maybe no, let's say 400, and I don't know, 1000. What the hell was that? Anyway, so when you do that, oops, I'm sorry. Let's say actually 800. All right. Now look at that. The dog doesn't move as much. Now the master walks more, and the dog doesn't move as much. Now why this is important? So this is just to clarify. This is the low end of the master, high end of the master, low end of the slave, and high end of the slave. Or you can call it the driver and the controller, or whatever that drives the animation. Its low end should be the second argument, high end should be the third argument, the object that is being driven, its low end should be the fourth argument, and the fifth argument should be its high end. And it's and the linear function is going to linearize the movement and return that value. That's what it does. So why this is important is that we can do some cool stuff with this. So for example, this scene file has 4 circles like this. So let me create new null object, and let's call it the controller, and let's go to fix controls panel. It's right here on the Windows menu. I can't find it. Let's do a slider controller. All right. Rotation. All right, I want to drive the rotation of these circles with this slider control. All right, that's what I want to do. Usually when you want to do that, you can use an expression controller, an angle controller very easily, but let's say now you want to do it with a slider controller. All right, let's press R and let's lock this so it's easier. Let's write an expression. Alt click on this little stopwatch. We need our variable, input variable, equals to, let's pick whip the rotation slider. All right. All right, whatever the value of this slider value, I'm going to capture it and save it in this reference right here, and I'm going to use that right here. Linear function. So the first argument should be the input. Now this name can be anything. All right, it can be just one letter like E. All right, I'm using the input, the value for clarity. It can be anything. It can be even your name. That's no problem. So in the linear function, we know now the driver is this slider control. The low end, we want to map the values between 0 and 100, right? The driver's low end and the driver's high end, 0 and 100. I want to rotate the circle 0. Circle should be at rotation 0 when the value of the slider is 0. When the value of the slider is at 100, the value the rotation should be 360. So it's one full rotation. So when I do this, now you can see, now this is like a percentage value, right? So when I go to 100, when it reaches 100, it reaches when I'm at 100, it has completed a full rotation. And now after 100, it's not going to do anything. I'm going to stop paying attention to that because we have limited. Now what I can do is, let's do like 1080. So that's 5 rotations. 3 rotations. 0 to 100. Now it does 3 rotations when it goes from 0 to 100. Let's actually animate this value. 0 to maybe 4 seconds. 100. All right, and if I do a RAM preview, that's what it does. And you can type in any number here. Let's do 600. All right, that's what it does. Now let's select this attribute, go to edit, copy expression only, select all of these other layers and press Ctrl V. Now if we press U, the same expression has been applied there. Everything's rotating the same way. Now what you can do, let's actually change these values a little bit, like 200 and maybe 400 here, maybe 800 here, maybe just 600 here. Now what that does is that now they're rotating at different speeds, and if you don't want all of them to rotate in the different in the same direction, what you can do is just type multiply by -1 right there. Let's do it for a couple of them. Multiply asterisk by -1. So those two circles are going to rotate in the other way around. All right. The cool thing about this is that now we have only animated just one attribute. All right, only this attribute. The controllers, the slider value, 0 to 100, very clean animation. 0 to 100, that's all we did, and this animation happens. How cool that is. So, and another example would be if you're a template artist like me, sometimes you might run into situations like, now your logo is here, this tagline right here, because it's a template. These dimensions, the height of the logo can change if it is a vertical version, like a lengthy high version. So in those cases, you have to give a control to the client to move this third text or the tagline down or up, because the size of the logo changes. In situations like that, what you would do is that you make a control here, controller. Let's do an expression control, slider control. Let's do let's say position tagline position. All right. Now, the most straightforward way to do is that let's press E. Now the slider control is 0. Now the position right here. What you can do is that copy this value, the Y position, right? We need to change the Y position. The easiest thing to do is to copy this and paste it here, and alt click on this little stopwatch and link this value like that. That's all right. Now what you can do is, now when you there's no linear function, nothing, just now you can move the third text with this control. But the problem with this is that there's no limitation of anything, because anything can happen. The user is not an artist, not experienced with the software. Accidentally, what happens is sometimes they move the third text all the way here, and they can't find it again. So they're going to send you mails and asking you, hey, the third text is missing. What should I do? So in cases like that, you have to limit these movements. How you can do that is that you can use the linear function. Let's say our input variable, that's our input variable, linear function. The first variable, the first argument is input, and the lowest value can be the height of the composition is 1080. So lowest value, let's say 0 to 1080, and let's say 0 to 1080. All right, so there's no way now they can, let's say, actually it's going beyond the canvas, so let's say 60. All right, now there's no way how much the user changes this. There's no way that tagline could move away from the screen. Right now we have limited it, but still, yeah, that's one way of using it. But sometimes what happens is in some marketplaces like VideoBolt, they don't allow you to create controls with these values, right? Your slider values has to be between 0 and 100. That's a rule. Some marketplaces has those rules. So in a case like that, what you can do, it's very easy. You can just type 0 and 100. That's it. When it's 0, it'll be here. When it's 100, it's here. Once again, it's more simpler now. And there are the other problems as well. Sometimes you want to limit the movement of this element as well. If you want to limit this movement, what you can do, let's say 600. Now I have limited the movement between here and here, so the user can only move the third text between these 2 points, not above this point or not below this point. So that's a nice way of using. So this is I use it all the time when creating templates. So if you're a template artist, yeah, this could be useful. And now the next one, this one right here, it's going to be a bit complicated, so bear with me now. What I want to do here, only move this red knob right here, and everything else has to move. Now this is going to be a bit complex. All right, let's call it the driver. Okay, for this one, position, once again I have separated the dimensions. Position, the Y position, right? I'm going to write the expression to the Y position. Let's do the simplest thing first. Input. Variable. Our variable. Linear. You know, just the regular thing. Input. Now the lowest value and the highest value. Oh, I need to check that. Lowest value is like what? Maybe 760. The highest value should be 310 maybe. Yeah, 310. All right, let's do 310, 760. Let's do 310, 720. So it's going to be 1-to-1 once again. Nothing special. Oh, I typed 720, so it should be 760. All right, 760, nothing special, right? But what I want here is to make this knob moves a random amount when I'm moving this. I want this knob to move within this range, but a random amount. You know, I can easily do this like 300, something like 280, 700. Let's do that. No, 380. Let's say 380. All right, now it moves. It doesn't move as much. Now what I have to do is I can copy this expression, paste it to all of them, and go into each and every one of them, like I did here, each and every one of them, and change. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that because that's tedious. I want to write an expression right here, which I can copy and paste. Once I did it, all of these knobs should move in random amounts, but within this range, right? Some of these knobs should move up, and some of them should go down, but in different amounts, right? Very random, a random movement. That's what I want to do. So in order to do that, it's clear that I need a random number. I need to generate a random number. So let's do that. Variable random equals to random it shouldn't be like between 0 and 1. It should be like -1 and 1. A random number between -1 and 1. That's what I want to generate, because minus value is because I want the knobs to move the other way around as well, not just the way that I move this knob. So that's why I need to use that number right there. And let's try this first. Multiply by random value. Let's see if that works. All right, what that did is that it seems like it's working, sort of working, but there are two problems. One problem is that it's working, but it's moving above this point. This knob should be constrained into this range, right? That's 310 and 760, but it's going above this point. That's wrong. And the other thing is that if I advance the keyframe, the time slider, it's going to change like that. Look at that. It's going to change, right? It's because this random value, this random function, is going to generate a random number in every frame. When I advance a frame, it's going to generate a random number. So it's going to dance around like that. And that's very bad. So I need just one random number to be generated and hold on to it. In order to do that, I'm going to do something. I'm going to use a SeedRandom function. SeedRandom function. Let's not worry about that now. What it does, index is this the layers index, so it's different for each. The SeedRandom is different for each layer, because for this layer it takes 2, for this layer it takes 3, for this layer it takes 4, like that. So SeedRandom is different for each layer. So that's another way of randomizing it. So index timeless equals to true. That means doesn't bound the don't bound to the time. So yeah, now it doesn't dance around, but where is it? It's right here. All right, now it's right here, but yeah, it's a progress because it doesn't dance around now. Yeah, it has generated a SeedRandom, and it doesn't dance around. That's good. But why this element is right here, right? We need to constrain it to these 2 points, right? That's the requirement here. The way to solve this is to use the linear function twice. First time is to normalize these 2 values, right? That's what the linear function does. We'll map 310 and 760. We'll map these values to something that's between 1 and minus 1. We'll do that first and then go from there. If it doesn't make sense, just see what I do. Let's actually put a comment here. Let's comment it out. I'm going to write something like this: variable normalized let's go. There's a function called normalize. So here's the thing. The input is our input. Input is the position, this position, right? This position. And the low end is 310, high end is 760. And we're going to map these two values to 1 and -1. All right. What's going to be returned from the linear function right now is a value between 1 and -1. That's what is going to be returned, right? Whatever the values here, 310. When this object reaches 310, the value goes to 1. When this object reaches -1, the value goes to -1. That's our first part. As the second part, let's do the linear function again. And now the input should be normalized value. This is a value between 1 and -1. And the low end, we know the low end of this normalized value, whatever the value, is 1. High end is -1. And we need to map it again to 310 and 760. Let's see what happens. Now it sort of works. But the randomness is not there yet. This is inverted because we switched these to 1 and -1. That's why it's inverted. -1 and 1. Let's do that. Now it's a one-to-one mapping. As you can see, we are back at where we began. So what we do here is that we have constrained it to this. Now see what happens when I multiply this value by our random number. This random number, we haven't utilized it yet. When I do that, now this happens. Now at this moment, the random number is clearly a minus value. That's why it goes the other way around. So let's before I do that, okay, let's actually copy this. Edit, copy expressions only. Copy expression only. Let's paste this onto everything. See what happens. That's it. All right. Now, there's one more thing we can do. You know, if you don't, what if you don't like this pattern? There's no way of changing it, right? So let's create another null called controller. See, when I add layers, the positioning changes. If I duplicate this layer, the positioning will change, right? Why do you think that happens? It's because we have utilized the index number. Now the index number changes when every time I add a layer. When I duplicate this, the index number changes. Why? That's because press U. We have used the index value, index number, to create the random seed. That's why it happens. So here in the controller, let's create a slider and call it seed something. And here let's create another variable here. Variable change. Let's get that value. All right. Now let's for SeedRandom index plus change. Okay. If I do that, and let's copy edit copy expression only. Let's paste it. Okay. Now when let's hide this. When I do this, that happens. Yeah. And if I change the seed, look at that. You can change the seed as well. You know, if you do some kind of an animation like this, and if the client says that no, all right, everything's good, but I don't like this pattern, yeah, you can choose something until he likes it. You know, something like this. Okay. Now I know it's a bit technical and confusing. I'll have this expression pasted in the description, and yeah, let's do that again. Rewind the video, do that until it makes sense. All right, that's the linear function. Actually, this is a bit complicated. This is something fun to do. Well, I think by now you have got an idea about what the linear function is. So that's it. I'll see you in another tutorial really soon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.